The backstage corridor of America's Got Talent hums with quiet chaos. Stage hands moving quickly, producers whispering into headsets, contestants pacing back and forth, rehearsing final breaths of courage. Somewhere in that maze stands Marco, his hands clasped tightly in front of him, fingertips pressing together as if holding something fragile. He closes his eyes. For a moment, he is no longer in Los Angeles. He is back in a small neighborhood in the Philippines, where electricity flickered on and off, and music came through a radio older than he was. He remembers his father sitting beside it late at night, carefully adjusting the dial, smiling every time a familiar voice crackled through the static. Elvis. Marco inhales slowly. The smell of the stage, metal, dust, warm lights, pulls him back to the present. "Marco, you're up," a producer says gently. He nods. The curtain begins to part. The AGT stage opens wide, glowing in gold and blue. The audience fills the theater from floor to balcony, thousands of eyes searching the figure walking out alone. Marco steps forward. He doesn't wave, he doesn't smile. He simply walks, calm, steady, dressed in a modest black jacket and dark trousers, his hair neatly combed back. There's nothing flashy about him, nothing loud. And yet, something about the way he carries himself makes the room feel quieter. Polite applause rises, but it's cautious, curious. At the judges' table, Simon Cowell leans back in his chair, arms folded across his chest. His face is neutral, almost unreadable, the look of a man who has seen too much to be impressed easily. Another singer, maybe, he thinks. "How are you?" Simon asks, his tone professional, distant. Marco steps closer to the microphone. His hands tremble slightly, but his voice does not. "I'm okay, sir, thank you. What's your name?" Simon continues. "My name is Marco." "And where are you from, Marco?" Marco pauses. He looks out at the audience, strangers from another world, then back at the judges. "I'm from the Philippines." A soft murmur rolls through the crowd. Not loud, not dramatic, just enough to acknowledge the distance, the journey, behind those words. Sofia Vergara leans forward, her smile warm. "That's very far. What brings you here?" Marco swallows. "I grew up in a very small house," he begins. "We didn't have much, but my father, he loved music." Simon's gaze sharpens just a fraction. Marco continues. "He was not a singer. He was a repairman. Radios, fans, old televisions. People would throw them away and he would bring them back to life." The audience listens closely now. At night, Marco says softly, "After work he would fix an old radio we kept on the table, and every time Elvis came on, he would smile like the world was perfect." A few people in the crowd nod, recognizing something familiar. "How old were you then?" Howie Mandel asks. "I was maybe 6 or 7, Marco replies. "My father would ask me to sit with him and listen. Even if I didn't understand the words, I could feel the emotion." Simon shifts in his chair. "And did you sing back then?" Simon asks. Marco shakes his head slowly. "No, I was shy, but my father always told me, 'One day you will sing, not for money, for feeling.'" The theater grows still. "What happened to your father?" Heidi Klum asks gently. Marco's jaw tightens. He takes a breath. "He passed away when I was 16. A quiet wave of sympathy moves through the room. "I remember the radio was broken that day," Marco continues. "The house was silent, no music, no Elvis. And I thought, maybe the music left with him." His eyes glisten, but he holds himself together. "So why are you here now?" Simon asks, his voice softer than before. Marco looks straight at him. "Because I fixed the radio," he says, "and the music came back." A ripple of emotion spreads through the audience. And today, Marco adds, "I'm here to sing for my father, on the biggest stage, because he never stopped believing I could." For the first time, Simon uncrosses his arms. "What song will you be singing?" Simon asks. Marco hesitates, just a heartbeat. "An Elvis song." A few eyebrows rise. Elvis is risky, too iconic, too often imitated. Simon tilts his head. "That's a bold choice." Marco nods. "I know, sir." There is a long pause. The band prepares quietly behind the scenes. The lights dim slightly. The energy in the room changes, anticipation tightening like a held breath. Simon studies Marco one last time. "Whenever you're ready," he says. Marco steps closer to the microphone. He closes his eyes. The music hasn't started yet. but something already feels like it has. The room waits. The theater holds its breath. The band is ready, fingers hovering above keys and strings, waiting for a signal that hasn't come yet. The lights dim further until the massive AGT stage feels smaller, more intimate, like a single spotlight suspended in darkness. Marco stands completely still. His eyes remain closed, his face calm but tight with emotion, as if holding back a lifetime of memories pressing against his chest. His hands rest gently at his sides. He doesn't grip the microphone. He doesn't adjust his stance. He simply listens. In his mind, the stage disappears. He hears the faint crackle of an old radio, the soft hum before the music begins, his father's quiet breathing beside him, the way the room used to feel warmer when Elvis sang, even when the lights flickered. The band finally begins, barely. A low, gentle chord slides into the air, almost unnoticeable, the kind of opening that asks the singer not to rush, not to prove anything. Just to be honest. Marco's chest rises. Then, one note, not loud, not flashy, just true. The sound flows out of him like a confession whispered too long in silence. It is smooth but textured, steady yet trembling at the edges, a voice shaped by years of listening rather than performing. The impact is immediate. The audience doesn't clap, they don't gasp, they freeze. It's as if that single note has reached into the room and pressed pause on time itself. At the judges' table, Simon Cowell's pen stops mid-air. His eyes widen almost imperceptibly, the smallest crack in his composure but unmistakable. He leans forward without realizing it. Sophia's smile fades, replaced by something deeper, recognition. Her hand slowly lifts to her mouth. Heidi's. Eyebrows rise. She whispers, "Wow," under her breath. Howie blinks twice, processing what he's hearing, because that note doesn't sound like an impression. It sounds like memory. Marco opens his eyes. He continues the line, his voice settling into the melody with surprising control. The vibrato isn't forced. It arrives naturally, like breath catching on emotion rather than technique. Every word lands. The band follows him now, not the other way around. The pianist softens his touch, giving space. The guitarist waits an extra beat before sliding into harmony. Even they can feel it, something fragile unfolding in real time. Marco's voice carries weight without shouting. It doesn't chase Elvis's voice. It walks alongside it, honoring the shape without copying the shadow. In the audience, a woman in the front row wipes her eyes. A man beside her leans back, stunned. Someone whispers, "That's real." The camera cuts back to Simon. His lips part slightly. He exhales, slow, controlled, but the tension in his jaw betrays him. He isn't judging anymore. He's listening the way people listen when something unexpected finds them. Marco reaches the end of the first phrase and allows a brief pause. Not silence. Space. The room leans into it. Then he continues. The second note is stronger, more confident, carrying the story forward. You can hear the journey in his voice, the long nights, the broken radio, the father who believed without applause. Marco's posture changes. His shoulders loosen. His fear dissolves into focus. This is his place now. As the song builds, he doesn't oversing. He trusts the emotion. He lets certain words linger just a fraction longer than expected. Not to show off, but because they mean something to him. And the audience feels that meaning. A man in the balcony closes his eyes. A teenager grips the edge of her seat. A couple holds. Hands without realizing it. Back at the judges' table, Simon's face has changed completely. The skepticism is gone. In its place is disbelief, the kind that creeps in slowly, almost unwillingly. He leans even closer now, elbows on the table. His eyes glisten under the stage lights, though he blinks quickly, refusing to let anyone notice. "This is different," he murmurs, more to himself than anyone else. Marco reaches the chorus. The band swells slightly, lifting him without overpowering him. His voice opens up, filling the room with warmth and ache in equal measure. This is the moment where many singers push too hard. Marco doesn't. He pulls back just enough to let the emotion speak louder than volume. The chorus lands, not as a performance, but as a promise kept. When he finishes the line, the theater remains silent for a heartbeat longer than usual. No one wants to break it. Then Marco takes another breath and continues into the next verse, confidence blooming where fear once lived. He is no longer thinking about judges or cameras or votes. He is singing to someone who can no longer hear him. And somehow, everyone in the room feels like they are hearing it for the first time. Simon finally whispers the words he never expected to say this early. Oh my God. The camera catches it. The audience doesn't. But the moment has already been sealed. One note was all it took. The final note doesn't end. It fades, slowly, delicately, like a candle flame refusing to go out. Marco lowers his chin as the last vibration leaves his throat. His chest rises and falls, not from exhaustion, but from the weight of everything he has just released. For a brief, fragile moment, there is absolute silence inside the theater. No applause, no cheers, no movement, just the echo of feeling hanging in the air. Marco opens his eyes. He doesn't look at the judge's He looks upward, past the lights, past the ceiling, as if searching for someone who has been listening all along. Then, the audience erupts. The applause crashes in like a wave breaking against the stage. People leap to their feet, clapping, cheering, shouting his name. Some wipe tears from their faces. Others press their hands to their mouths in disbelief. A standing ovation spreads from the front rows to the balcony in seconds. Marco flinches slightly, overwhelmed. His hands tremble as he grips the microphone stand for balance. He bows his head, tears finally breaking free, sliding down his cheeks unchecked. At the judges' table, Sophia and Heidi are already standing, applauding with wide smiles and wet eyes. Howie rises too, shaking his head in awe. Only Simon Cowell remains seated. The camera zooms in. He doesn't clap. He doesn't smile. He stares at Marco like he's trying to understand something that shouldn't exist, like the rules he's trusted for decades have just been quietly rewritten. The applause roars on. Finally, Simon lifts one hand. The room slowly settles. Simon clears his throat. For a moment, no words come. He begins, then stops. He exhales through his nose, presses his lips together, and looks down at the table, something he rarely does. When he looks back up, his eyes shine unmistakably under the stage lights. I've heard thousands of singers, Simon says, his voice calm but unsteady. Thousands. Great voices, trained voices, perfect voices. He pauses. And then there are moments like this. The audience leans in. That first note, Simon continues, told me everything I needed to know. Marco's hands shake harder now. You didn't come out here to impress anyone, Simon says. You came out here to tell the truth. A murmur of agreement ripples through the crowd. And that, Simon adds, swallowing hard, is far rarer than talent. The theater explodes again with applause. Marco wipes his eyes, nodding repeatedly, unable to speak. Sophia steps forward. Marco, she says warmly, you didn't just sing an Elvis song, you made it yours. I felt like I was inside your story. Heidi follows, her voice trembling. You have a gift that cannot be taught. It comes from pain, from love, from life. And that is beautiful. Howie grins, but his eyes are serious. This is why we do this show. People think it's about notes and technique, but it's about connection. And you connected with all of us. The crowd cheers again. Marco finally finds his voice. Thank you, he whispers. This is for my father. The audience responds with a collective awe. Simon raises a finger, signaling one more thought. Marco, he says, you know Elvis is dangerous territory. People try to copy him. They fail because they forget one thing. He pauses. Elvis wasn't about perfection. He was about feeling. Simon leans forward. And you understand that. The room goes silent again. Simon takes a breath, his expression softening completely. I don't know what happens next in this competition, he says honestly, but I do know this. He stops, emotion catching in his throat. You've already done something extraordinary. Marco covers his mouth, breaking down fully now. His shoulders shake as the weight of the moment crashes over him. The audience chants his name. Marco! Marco! Simon stands. The reaction is instant. The theater explodes louder than before. Cameras flash, music swells. Simon claps slowly at first, deliberately, then faster, fully committed. When the applause finally settles, Simon nods once. You have my yes, he says simply. 4 judges press their buttons. Yes, 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 yes. Confetti doesn't fall, a buzzer doesn't slam, but something more powerful has already. 80 happened. Marco steps back from the microphone, hands over his heart, eyes lifted again, not to the judges, not to the audience, but to the memory of a man who once fixed a broken radio so music could live again. As he exits the stage, the crowd continues to cheer. Backstage, the producer hugs him tightly. "You did it," she whispers. Marco smiles through tears. "No," he says softly, "my father did." The camera fades out on Simon Cowell, still standing, still clapping, his face marked by something rare on that stage. Pure, undeniable emotion.